when we cut and paste, we actually cut pages and pasted them and then ran them through the Xerox machine.
We wake up and look at a 6-inch screen, then we get to work on a 27-inch screen, and then we come home and relax behind a 40-inch screen before we play with our 6-inch screen again and then go to bed.
It's this efficiency above all else.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to AI with Bry, the podcast where we're breaking down how to actually learn, leverage, and lead with AI in the real world. I am your host, Brian Denstead, a technologist, a strategist, and someone who spends a lot of time helping leaders figure out how AI fits into their work, their teams, and their decision-making. Each week, I'm sitting down with people who are not just talking about AI, but actively working with it, experimenting, building, helping others, understanding what's practical versus what's just noise. And most companies don't fail because of bad ideas. They're failing because their strategy never survives the execution. And that's why I'm so excited to welcome Michael Baer to the show. Michael is a fractional chief marketing officer, a fractional chief growth officer with TechCXO. And he specializes in helping leaders and teams bridge the gap, especially as AI reshapes how work actually gets done. I've gotten the chance to work with him many times. Michael brings a really grounded, operator-first perspective on growth, change, and what it takes to lead in an AI-enabled organization. So I think you don't really think about AI as a buzzword. You're focusing on some clarity, outcomes, and the tools that we need to use responsibly and effectively here. So I'm really looking forward to hear your perspective on this. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, Brian. It almost seems like I don't need to say anything because you just said it all. But I do like your beginning with the whole bridging strategy and execution, as you know, my term stratacution, which is the lens which I believe all companies, big and small, need to look at the work they do through.
That's right. I agree completely. And I've got to see you do that multiple times. So I'm so excited to jump into this here. The first part of our conversation is really learning. So Michael, with everything changing so fast, like blazingly fast, what is something you've learned recently about AI that really stood out to you?
A couple of things, interestingly. One is sort of intuitive and the others may be counterintuitive. The intuitive thing is, it's remarkable how fast AI can give you an answer. And what I've learned is, and I think we all have, the more we use it, is that the first answer is never the best answer, and how important it is to take the human side to make the fast smart. And by probing, pushing back, I think, we also all know, having spent time with it, that AI is not just software, but it's a system designed for humans to make them like that system. So it rewards you by making you think how you're smart and by making you feel good and want you to like it. But that doesn't mean it's right or good. So, what I've learned over time is that good prompting requires repeated prompting and pushing and prodding, and actually ends up needing strategic guidance. Which truthfully ends up subtracting some of the fast speed and efficiency you get from it. But that's something I've learned. The other thing I've learned is that sometimes it's best to write things yourself.
Yeah.
I've been doing, I'll tell you something interesting about me, human or personally, that I've begun like reading books again, like really like a couple books a month. I think probably most of us, were readers at a point in our lives, and life sort of gets in the way, and digital life, and phones in your hands, and all that stuff. And I began reading, really, and I had a huge list of books that I always thought I'd read, but wasn't reading. And when you read good writing, it's remarkable how different it is than AI writing. And I think one of the things we all have to think about now is with AI making it easy to write crap, or as they say, the slop that we all see. It's making, first of all, it's making the difference, the dichotomy between what really well written, interesting written, good writing looks like, and what the algorithm gives you, or and the unfortunate side effect is we're now our brains are becoming wired to how do we prompt something to write versus writing ourselves. So it's actually making humans writing stuff even harder. So I don't know. That's a learning that I'm struggling with, because believe me, we all, and I certainly use it to do a first draft, nearly every single time I write something. And I think there's a lot of things that will not be the best route forward, and especially, and I see it in my work, but you see it as well, both personally in the amount of deluge of content coming into your inbox and the stuff you see on social feeds, but also in the performance data and the results data for all the work we do from a marketing standpoint. It's all declining. Attention is too spread, and people know how to avoid AI slop. And they actually, I just saw some data, 80% of people say they can identify AI written content, and 70% say they trust it less. So we're getting to a point where how do we bridge this? More people are using it. 93% of people say, it speeds them up.
Yeah.
Which again, we have to decide, is speed and efficiency our goal, or is good work, our goal. But so if everybody's using it, but everybody knows you can avoid it, where do these things meet? So that's kind of my learning. I don't know exactly how we solve that, other than you got to do the work. You got to, push past that first draft. You got to recognize it may not be that much faster if I ensure I'm creating the human side of it.
Oh my gosh, so many little anecdotes I want to unpack with you. I saw something interesting on LinkedIn the other day of like, we wake up and look at a 6-inch screen, then we get to work on a 27-inch screen, and then we come home and relax behind a 40-inch screen before we play with our 6-inch screen again and then go to bed. So it's just like
100%.
How, so to me, what I'm hearing you say is like, I think AI is great for, hey, help me with this quick email to make sure, let's get that out there. But like, I do feel that same thing. Like, I still crave the New York Times opinion piece that I know was not written by the AI. Or like, I see your guitar hanging up behind you there, right? Like, how are you experimenting with music and creativity? Like, I hope that AI frees us up with a little bit of time so we can actually get back to some of the passions we have, like, and do some of the creative writing or music or some of those things. Like, do you have some thoughts on how you want to see the society shaped?
I mean, that is such a fascinating thought. I was going to get there as well. This idea that what is AI ultimately but efficiency? I mean, at the end of the day, it's doing things faster, because most of the things you could do. I mean, yes, there's things that you could do if you had, 3 millennium. I mean, there's things that literally would take so long you couldn't do them. But most of the things you could do, you could write these things, you could search these databases, except it takes long. So there's efficiency and speed, and some of that stuff it's so much better and speedier that you probably couldn't have done it in your day job or in your actual existence. And so that's not even efficiency, that's really enablement, I think. But then there's stuff like efficiency, something that might have taken you an hour, now it's taking you 3 seconds or 3 minutes or something. We have to start thinking about, what is that efficiency doing for us? Does it free us up for broader thinking, lateral thinking? I mean, we think most of what we're doing is almost task oriented. It's rational thinking versus what might have a really big, more seismic impact on my job, my work, my company. And I don't think it's doing that a lot, really. I think it's more so I can get to the next pile that's on my desk, or I can plug another thing into the query or into the bot and push that through. So that's where I think, and I wrote an article. So I'm a long-time blogger, an article writer. And I went back and I found an article I wrote in literally I think it was 12 or 11 or 12. And it said, a plea for some inefficiency, that too much efficiency can be a bad thing. And this idea of efficiency as an end in and of itself is really not a great thing, because you're focused on a process improvement. But the process improvement doesn't necessarily allow for, first of all, sometimes just the serendipity of taking a wrong turn. It's like finding the shortest route isn't always the best, because you've missed something, or you can't have some sort of creative or lateral leap. But you're also not, you're focusing on your internal way versus what, like now, I mean, if it gives us a chance to look externally and seek bigger ideas and new concepts, or try like sort of innovation, then it's wonderful. But if it's just a way to make things faster, so either we can spend less time on things, so we could hire fewer people, so we can drive margin, which is unfortunately, I think, really the way it's kind of becoming embraced to do, then it's not really improving anything. And I do agree, in your personal life, the idea that Spotify is now pushing, AI music, and we're really going down the wrong rabbit hole. I think. Right, I wish it was freeing up more people to create Spotify music, and like our partner Kevin, who makes music. Like, I wish more people had time to do that. But anyway, so it is interesting. It's this efficiency above all else. That's not necessarily the end goal.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's a really great takeaway. I mean, I think a lot of the listeners are struggling and wrestling with that same exact challenge, right? Like, is this going to am I going to take that breather? Am I going to say, look, let's move to a 30-hour work week because we've got the efficiency gains? But it's also like, this gets into the next segment, really, because if we move into the leverage section of this, learning is important, but the value shows up when it changes how we work, right? And so you started touching on that a little bit. And you and I, especially as C-suite type executives, my question is we already have to be on our game all day long as C-suite executives, right? And so the little bit of relaxation I get to do is the downtime, boring stuff of composing an email. And now that's been ripped away from me because I can do it faster with AI. So I'm just 10 hours a day on strategy mode, you know what I mean? And I don't get any downtime work. Like, that's going to take a toll on us as leaders and stuff. But, so I don't know, help me unpack that. And what are some of the other changes you're making your workflow because of AI?
I mean, I'm not sure I have a solution for you, because I do think the world is just speeding up. I mean, there's an expectation you work faster, you do things faster, you move to the next thing. I mean, just look at the news cycle, and yesterday probably had a crisis that's already into the next thing today. So I think everything we do is sped up, and so our days are now, like you say, do that email faster so that I could do another thing faster, so that I could do another thing faster. What am I doing to try? I mean, I think, I don't know. I'd like to say that my, return to reading like tactile books is an answer to it, because it coincides timing wise with kind of all this stuff. But that is something I do find a real like mental moment of breath. It's so rare. I mean, we all, of course, we go and, like you say, look at the 40-inch or 50-inch, or I think I've got a 60-inch.
I don't want to know how big your TV is.
But that's not the same, because we're leaning back and it's being pushed at us. So in a way, it's sort of like, sitting in front of your, like you said, 13-inch screen, but taking a moment to read. And also it's like really experiencing language and thought and creating imagery in your own mind. Those are exercises in neuron axon sparks that you don't get, in the day. And it's probably healthy. It's probably brain healthy. But I'm not going to tell everybody go out and read an hour a day or something.
I don't think of myself as a strong creative type person. I do think of myself as a good process person, or let me help lay out the Lego path to get to the castle we need to build here. But along the way, I see these visions of what I want it to look like. And I feel like it's making me more creative because I go to Nano Bananas or I go to the image generation thing. And I'm like, let me articulate this idea and see the vision in my head, actually get out of my head into a picture. And anybody else, I'd have to ask the graphic designer, and then it winds up being their picture, not my picture. But I can pull that out with the creativity of it all. It's like really exciting. Are there ways that you're pushing the ways? Are there ways that like you're pushing the CMO and the chief growth teams that you're working with towards creativity or helping to leverage AI for some of the gains that you want the teams to have as outputs?
I'll go there in a second. First, I want to say I love what you just said, because I think, and I can see it with you, and I'm watching you. I'm looking at you, Brian. But no, I see what you're doing, and I can see that you're getting off on the ability to do stuff you couldn't do before, and it's helping you you're making things. I mean, first of all, I think you're super creative. I mean, I think creativity is unfortunately overly narrowly defined as somebody who either puts words or music or pictures together, but really it's thinking beyond what's in there. It's creating new stuff. Basically, the definition of creativity is something like taking two thoughts and combining them in a new way, or getting people to see something old in a new way. And you do that, I think, every day, lots and lots of times. But I get what you're saying, and I see you doing it, and I'm totally impressed by the videos you're making, the pictures and the imagery, and the leveraging these tools to make stuff. I mean, clearly that's creative. There's no doubt. And I know other creatives, and when I say creatives, I mean like art directors, writers, designers who are using it to make stuff in new ways. And I think that's super cool. And I'm not doing that. I haven't been playing with that kind of stuff, and I haven't leveraged it really to that extent. And I know there's a lot of opportunity there. It's also a little scary because of the deep fakes and all that stuff. But I mean, that aside, I think it's amazing. I mean, I'm working on a project with a creative team, and the company I'm working with gave us like four. It's a new product, doesn't exist yet, but I mean, they probably made it, but like we don't have a real one to look at. And so they gave us like 3 or 4 renderings, and the art director put them in, and now he can move the thing and create them in every different angle. Like, what? I mean, that's unbelievable. So like right off the bat, that's phenomenal. That's incredible. A couple of things I've done with AI, which have been really like super rewarding, because it has been efficient, but it's been efficient in like a coaching way, where a client of mine didn't have a lot of money, didn't want me to go and off and do stuff. And so what I did was, we had a deliverable. It was actually a company that was joining 2 parts of their business into a single idea and wanted to rebrand themselves. And we had worked together, and we developed like a core strategy. It actually was some good, interesting work. But now we needed to combine it into one, and they wanted to do it, a little more efficiently. And so I developed a curriculum, essentially. It was like for 13 weeks. I had what I wanted to do, but I leveraged AI to create a 13-week curriculum. Essentially, I said, we do a two-hour jam. I said, I wanted a 2-hour jam session with the CEO and the marketing manager. And I need exercises to do that, so that at the end of week 1, we'd end up with this deliverable. And so it was like a 2-hour session with them. I gave them homework, and then on Friday we'd come back and we'd close that chapter, and then we'd move on to the next. And at the end we had, and it was interesting work, but it was also great for them, and it was really interactive, and it also was like very cogently, set up in 13 steps that I probably could have done, but I don't know if I would have thought about it that way exactly. I had to prompt it. I had to ask. I knew what I wanted. So it was like highly strategized by myself, but like it was AI built this program, and it's repeatable now. I mean, I could do this with other companies, but it's that I found that as interesting, like to use it as a way to do almost workshopping and coaching, developing curricula kind of thing, or like a workshop program.
And these are, I'm looking at it always from this programming techie CTO lens. And I see you and some of my other colleagues like embracing these exactly what you just said, this way to leverage AI in a way that is something that you would maybe have had to hire a team for or spend some time, doing a big deep dive, and
or
you in a
almost
couple hours
turning this project down because it's like, it can't afford me. And I don't know any other way to do it, but this was a way to make it work for both of us.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I mean, you're teasing into the last segment of our show here is leadership, right? Like leading with AI. Like, how else are you helping others understand and adopt AI that helps it feel almost empowering and not so intimidating? Or help us unpack that.
Yeah, I would say that's the best example I can give. The use cases tend to be a little more tactical and ad hoc. I haven't necessarily helped teams build systems or agentic kind of like, hey, let's just, but I'm like, coming, I'm all in for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're coming to you though, saying, hey, I slapped the purple magic AI sticker on our product, right? Like I've got these things. Hey, Mr. CMO, help me explain this to our non-technical stakeholders. Help me bring the market to buy this. Like, how are you leading with embracing that kind of like, it's AI everywhere, right?
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think in general, I always say it's not what you do or how you do it, it's what you do for your customer. So I always counsel the companies that I work with, the products that I represent, to not talk about what it is in the product. I mean, you know, we finally stopped talking about it's a digital this or it's a web-based this, but in AI, even more so, both because, I mean, I think a lot of companies, especially when they're developing pitch decks, they want to put AI in the headline on the first page because that's what's getting funded. But I always say that's not the value. That's how you're deriving value. What is the ultimate problem you're solving and value you're creating for the customer? And frankly, a lot of the people, and I'm sure you get this all the time too, so many startups and founders are building products and trying to find a problem that it solves versus the other way around. I mean, hey, I've got AI, it can do this. Like, does anybody want that? I don't know if you talk to anybody, and you certainly can't turn it into value if you didn't. But it's true. Like, people want to just say, oh, it's AI. And AI, depending on who your audience is, has a lot of different pluses and minuses. I do a lot of work, as do you, in healthcare. And, trying to sell a product to clinicians, to, healthcare providers, that you say AI does this or that, you have to understand there are many who still either resist it or don't want to take diagnostic, decision-making away from them. Or they say, I've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. And, I know how to do it. I don't want that aspect of it. So you have to understand what value is AI giving them. And in that world, it's certainly efficiency. You know that as well as I. I mean, if you can give those people time back in their day, I mean, how they use that time, you can't say so they can do more, so they can see more patients. But the idea of not spending time on the stuff that they don't want to spend time on, that's administrative burden, etc. Those are values. So we talk, I say talk about those things. Don't say it's an AI this or that. It's giving you time back in your day or removing burden or obstacles. So, but you're right. Everybody just wants to put a big shiny sticker and have little rays coming off it and say we're AI.
Have you found any other colors besides purple? I mean, it's all purple, right?
It's purple. Yeah, I think it's purple.
Purple's the AI color. How do strong leaders though? Like we've talked about this a couple times throughout the show today. Like they're trying to balance speed with, in my opinion, like what you were just talking about, which is trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the teams feel overwhelmed. Like it's moving too fast. Like I can't keep up. Like how, there's this like
Right.
speed versus trust versus like, I'm not going fast enough. Right. I don't know it yet. I need a few minutes to read the book on AI so I can get up to speed on it. Right. Like you have some thoughts there for us?
Well, and I also wonder if there's not a little bit of a, well, this is the current fad. What's next?
Mm.
And how much, if I learn today, will it be outdated, obviated tomorrow when either AI changes or we move to BI or CI?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are feeling that. I mean, certainly in lots of industries, there's the buzz of the day. I mean, it's medicine and food and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably a little of that too. What was the question again?
No, it's the speed and the trust and the overwhelming of it. But like you're spot on, right? Because like in just the past week, the AI world has blown up because of healthcare. OpenAI's healthcare rollout, and then Anthropic's play on
Claude,
that, and you and I in healthcare see all these AI startups that we're going to change and fix healthcare because we've got the coolest AI piece that's going to help us do it, right? So we're chasing this healthcare buzz. I mean, it's a good majority of the United States economy spent on healthcare. So I certainly hope AI helps us reduce the costs and fix some of that stuff, but like, so I don't know, but it's this speed, it's this trust, it's this overwhelming again.
It's so, I mean, I hate to be a little bit contrarian as I generally am, but it's so not going to change the cost of anything. And in fact, the worry, which I share, is that things are so overvaluated and inflated. There's no way for some of these companies to ever really make the money that they put into it. I mean, think about OpenAI charges, and oh, by the way, something like 80% of all users use the free version. So only whatever it is, 20% pay $20, and there's some who pay, enterprise. But the people
I'm one
who pay
of those crazy people.
I am too. So I pay for it, but the truth is they're losing, thousands of dollars a year on us. So the only way for them to make money on us is not to make it $10 more, but to make it 10x more, maybe even more than 10x more. And would you pay for it if it was $300 a month or $400 a month? And I think most people would probably say no, even though it gives them great value. So, the question is, how does it drive down costs of healthcare or anything else? I'm skeptical. But if it does help to change some of the workflow imbalances in current American healthcare system, meaning we've digitized stuff, so now doctors are doing all kinds of writing and pre-authorization, all this stuff that takes time away from what they spent, 30 years of their lives investing in themselves to do. They didn't ever think they'd be spending time at 9 at night writing up charts and typing them and entering them and sending. So if it does those things, I mean, I think there's real value in it. Unfortunately, in the U.S. healthcare, we've got other issues that would probably make their bosses just say, "Great, now you can see 10 more patients a day." But right. But maybe that's good for the patients. So they're not wait time to see a doctor. But yeah, I think there's a lot of questions out there. I mean, I'm like right in the middle. Like I think it's clearly unbelievable. Like we're all amazed. I mean, and I think that was the difference. Say, like we've had these other fads, like blockchain, which some would say it's not a fad, it was a real thing and whatever, but it certainly was a little bit of a bubble. And then we had this whole meta thing, and now we've got AI thing. The difference was there was an immediate use case. You typed in something and it spit something out that was like, oh my God, that's just something I never thought I'd get in my computer.
Yeah.
Now it's, how does it become useful enough and
That's how I felt,
enough?
Like,
and
when you put on the VR headset the first time and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Right. But then I sit there and go like, but what's the practicality of it? How is this going to really change the world in a super big way? I mean, it's maybe 50 years before Ready Player One even gets super close. But you're right. The AI is like, you see immediate ideas for use cases, but we're still in this light bulb versus, assembly line creativity part of this transition. So it's going to be a few years to see how it shakes out. So,
I will say, I mean, I think it's definitely eating jobs. I mean, it's going to eat the jobs that are the kind of the functional day-to-day jobs. What I think is going to happen is that you and I and people who are at the, more strategic level are more important than ever.
Yeah.
The truth is, jobs at $300, $400, $500 an hour are going to go up because we need people to guide, to make strategic decisions. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. AI cannot make strategic decisions, and it can't think other than what's happened before. So for us to think what's going to happen next, or what do I want to do based on these things to change things, AI can't do that. And so I think the idea that, strategic roles will increase, or at least almost be more important than they ever were. But there's no doubt. I mean, we see it. I mean, it's taking jobs, and it's going to take jobs, which I don't think is great. I mean, it's great.
I want to ask you, right. But I want to ask you, as we're trying to head towards wrapping up here, you and I are old enough to remember the pre-internet days and the pre-cell phone days. Like, I remember one of my first jobs at Xerox, like there was still the arithmetic department. Like there were still ledger clerks. Like they were calculating things on paper.
We had word
books.
processing. You'd send things
teams. Yeah, exactly. So I just like, all those jobs are gone now, and Excel replaced them, or drafting boards and stuff. So like, I do see a huge amount of jobs going away with the AI paradigm, but I just think it's going to open up 10,000 new types of jobs we can't even imagine. So do you see that, or like, do you remember those older days? Like we've been through multiple paradigm shifts, right?
Well, and also the things we did. Like I remember my first job. First of all, I had an IBM Selectric typewriter. We didn't have computers yet. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm older than I look. And when we cut and paste, we actually cut pages and pasted them, and then ran them through the Xerox machine. So yeah, the fact that you're not doing that, and you're Control C, Control V, whatever. Those are advances, I think. I think you start to question whether you lose people's jobs, and people, is that better or worse? I mean, I can understand.
Depends on the jobs that we create. Yeah.
If we, right. I can understand it from a corporate standpoint, in that they're all driving for margin accretion, reducing costs, especially in a world where growth is tough, especially in competitive markets. What do they do? And it's been the same. It's been the model for my entire work life has been, we can't grow anymore, so we make the bottle smaller. we cut costs. We dilute the formula. I used to do a lot of work in packaged goods. It's like the VP of whatever the business would get promoted because he reduced the size of what was in the package, but it looked the same size. So they basically grew in revenue. So this idea of like margin. Like I get why that's, unfortunately, that's the metric. So we're going to look to reduce cost. We're going to reduce people. We're going to reduce headcount. I don't know if it's good for society, but I understand that growth model. But to your point, more importantly, it's like, what does it then allow to grow?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of new jobs, what kind of new roles? How does that time be reallocated into something else better or beneficial?
That's right.
That
I
remains
mean,
to be seen.
I think that's why our job is so important, like you said, and I fully expect us as creative, amazing leaders are going to see our rates have to increase, because the leadership that we bring is going to create these ripple effects that really, really matter downstream.
Yep.
Right. And
Yep.
that's where I'm hoping our meaningful leadership shows up in these times of change. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I
um,
agree. What a
yeah.
great ending there, Brian. I like that.
Well,
No, but
Michael,
it's true. I agree.
yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and joining us today on the show. I loved the conversation. We obviously could keep talking for another hour, but we'll try and draw this to a close. And I hope you can come back soon sometime, and we'll geek out some more.
I
I
would
love
be
how
happy
you
to.
help grounded us on a few ways that you're approaching AI.
Brian, thank you. Great to talk to you. Enjoyed the conversation a lot and would love to come back sometime soon.
Cool. Thanks again, Michael.
All right.
To everybody listening out there, this episode, I hope, helped you think differently about AI. If it did, please share it with somebody who's curious but not sure where to start. And make sure you follow the podcast yourself. Leave us a review and check the show notes for everything we discussed today. I'll make sure I put Michael's bio down there, and you can reach out to him and connect with him on LinkedIn. And he writes a ton of blogs, and he's got some great insights out there. So thank you again, Michael. This is Brian Denstead. I'm signing off. You've been listening to AI with Bri. Remember, the future doesn't wait. So get out there and learn, leverage, and lead. This episode of AI with Bri was hosted and produced by me, Brian Denstead. Produced with help from Nancy Velasquez and Kelly Lopez. Video by Leo Moralina. Sound AI generated. Find us on all platforms at AI with Bri and visit ai.bri.net for more. Learn, leverage, lead.